So I want to ask a follow-up question to all three of you real quick before I head out. So, Mark, you said that Miami is one team that you are looking at that on Florida State's schedule other than LSU and Clemson, kind of that other team on the schedule. And we talked about it a lot. So I guess my question to the three of you is, if you're Florida State, we're all Florida State supporters here. I'm giving you an honorary Florida State fandom here, Mark. Are you more, which team concerns you more? And I think we're all kind of in consensus here, Miami or Florida? Because not one of us is talking about Florida. And let's all remember, Florida came into Tallahassee last year and gave us a heck of a game in the last game of the season. So, but do you have more concern about Florida or Miami this season?
Miami. Florida had 9 players invited to the combine. Like Florida was a poorly coached football team. Like they have talent. And then if you look at the offensive linemen that left, and again, just look at what they have in attrition and what they have to come back and back that up, is they don't have a quarterback that anybody should fear. And regardless of what anybody has to say, there is a reason why Anthony Richardson is considered a potential first-round draft pick at quarterback. If you look at his just tools, he reminds you of a black Josh Allen. So like we went up against that. Now Miami, they have some guys that they recruited that they're going to have to rely on that are freshmen, and then they have some inherent talent that's coming back. I would just argue they have a better roster right now. I still think they're a poorly coached football team, but I would say that they have more talent, and that's why I would, argue now about Miami. Also, Miami will always play up for Florida State in that game. That's their Super Bowl, whether they want to admit it or not, which is why it benefits Miami more than us to play us in November, because, if they played us in October, the likelihood of them taking the season after the loss or win would be what they've done consistently. Whereas Florida, when we play them that last game in the swamp, they could have a season in disarray because their schedule is very difficult. They could legitimately only win 4 or 5 games. So that's kind of just the reason why I think Miami over Florida.
Logan, you've always been siding more on Florida's side than Miami's side when those two teams play. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think Florida lost too many people. Let's be honest. I mean, god dang, this whole offseason, it's left and right. They're losing talent. Like James said, a lot of talent that played against FSU that is moving on and going to go move into the next level and going to be competing to get drafted. That's literally all they had left there to play with this last season. Now I feel like this is the first year in Florida for to kind of build back up a little bit, because they lost too many people, too much talent. Had to make some changes, and that's understandable. That's fine, but it was a good game that they had brought inside Doak for sure, and a large part of that came from Anthony Richardson. He's not here anymore, and if I'm looking ahead now at their quarterback situation with the Wisconsin transfer as Adam Fuller, Florida State's defensive coordinator, I'm licking my chops at already game planning that one. I mean, it doesn't look pretty for what Florida's going to do. And that doesn't seem like they're going to, unless something happens in the spring for them, and if they're going to go that route and continue to play with him. I forget his name, some with an M at the end.
Graham Mertz.
Yeah. Have fun. Have fun. It doesn't concern me so much anymore. I thought Florida was going to be a better competitor, like you said, Jason, than Miami. And, sure enough, I think Florida's just a year out behind of that, just like what Miami just went through. And Miami's trying to do their thing, but I think Florida's in a pretty tough spot right now. And, national media is not expecting a lot from them this next year. And, of course, the schedule is absolutely awful for them. I mean,
they could lose 2 of their first 3 games, Utah and Tennessee. I mean, they could easily start the year 1-2. Don't get me wrong, we could start off 2-2 as well, but, yeah.
It just doesn't seem good. But at least, Florida's just not there yet, unless we hear some good things coming out of camp from them down in Gainesville. I mean, they don't pose a threat to me if I'm Florida State at this moment in time. And with what Florida State's been able to do also in the transfer portal, I mean, this is their best class they brought in. So I don't know. Not too worried about UF right now. Miami is I think there's just better opponents in the ACC that Florida State's going to face, like Clemson and Duke.
Honorary Noel, Mark, what do you think?
Can't really add too much to what those two said. I don't think their quarterback situation is what they want. Mertz was, he was a 5-star coming out of high school, but he was lousy at Wisconsin, and he had plenty of time, 2.5 seasons to show that he was a different player, and he's not. And that was with a great running game to support him. So, and the Ohio State transfer probably is not the answer. The one that they started in the bowl game, Jack Miller. So, yeah, Florida's got a lot of work to do against a very difficult schedule. And by the way, that's 7 teams in the ACC that either increased or decreased by 3 wins from 21 to 22.